Hey everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am doing my weekly wrap up. I'm going to be going over all the books that I read from June 9th through the 15th. Now this is going up later in the week than I usually do it. I usually post them on Mondays, but I tried to film on time on Sunday, but things just got busy and I was on my way to Temecula to stay for a few days with my mom. We went wine tasting and it was a blast. So this is going up a little late, so I am sorry about that. But let's go ahead and dive into all the books that I read for this last week. Okay, so before I start with my reads from that last week, I do want to mention my AC is on. It started to heat up in San Diego, and so I'm pretty hot and I'm in front of the ring light. So I do apologize if there's an annoying noise in the background, but I kind of need it on today because I do plan on filming another video after this. So if you're new to my channel, these are my weekly wrap-ups. I go over each book that I read. That way I can go into more detail, rant or rave, depending on how I feel about the book. And if you're also new, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that like button and comment down below, even if it's just with an emoji. All of it helps my channel, so I greatly appreciate it. This week, I didn't do as good as I thought I was going to do, but it wasn't horrible. I think I have 7 books to talk about. Some of them I'm going to kind of quickly go over because I am going to be having another Rina vlog going up where I'll go into way more detail, as I always do, on those books. So to start off, this was part of that vlog, and I read Cruking King. This is actually book 0 in the Royal Elite series. The reason I went back to this is I have been reading Rina Kent's backlist in her reading order for a long time. It's like forever I've been trying to do this. And I'm trying to catch up to the current God of Malice series, which is the one I really want to read. So when I'm reading this, the next one that I needed to read for the vlog actually introduced the hero and the heroine for that next book were introduced in Cruking King. And I never read Cruking King because I read books 1 through 5 or whatever for the Royal Elite series, and then I noticed there was a book 0, and I thought, whatever, like I already know all the characters, it's fine. Well, I decided I had to go back because I also did learn that the hero and heroine for Cruking King, I believe their kids are in the God of Malice series and they're important. So I was like, I have to go back and read the romance. Anyways, that was a lot of setup. I'm sorry, but that is kind of why I went all the way back to the Royal Elite. This is between Levi and Astrid, and I'm so glad I went back because I really loved this. So this is when Levi was still in the high school, the elite school that they all went to. And we previously, his cousin, which he kind of lives with his uncle and his cousin, and we know Aiden. He's one of my favorites. He's from the Royal Elite series, the first 3 books. So it's kind of interesting to see Aiden from his perspective because Aiden is kind of like psychopathic tendencies. But I really loved this book. It's kind of like a bully, but it wasn't too heavy on the bullying. I mean, the bullying is way worse in Aiden's books because he is bad. But so basically we have Levi, and he is like rebelling against his uncle. He hates Jonathan King. He doesn't want to be pigeonholed. He doesn't want to work in the business when he, ends up graduating college. He plays soccer. He's really good at it. He's like the captain of the team, and he wants to play pro soccer. And Jonathan is like, basically, no, you're going to play what I want. You're going to go to college and work in the business. And so he's kind of rebelling against that. And he decides one night at a party that he's gonna kind of set his uncle's summer house like on fire. And there's a big party happening at this, so I don't know if that's the best idea to do it when there's a party happening up there, but whatever. And so Astrid happens to be at this party. She really likes to stay in the background. She doesn't want to be known. But her best friend Daniel is like on the soccer team, and he kind of takes her to this party. And she ends up accidentally getting drugged. And this ties into the next book that I read that introduced these characters. Because Daniel, is her best friend. And he basically kind of has some weird stuff going on with Nicole throughout this book. And Nicole is Astrid's stepsister. They hate each other. Her sister, Nicole, is really evil. She's super mean girl to her. You really hate her in this book. And Nicole, like, kind of meant to drug Daniel to, like, probably hook up with him or do something weird with ecstasy. She wasn't trying to do it to be rapey. You'll see later in the other book. But she acts like Astrid accidentally drinks her drink, so she gets kind of drugged. She kind of has a run-in with Levi, but he doesn't do anything with her sexual because he sees she's on drugs, so he kind of kicks her out of the place. But she happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time when some of his little henchmen are like setting up the fire, and they chase her through the woods, and she ends up getting hit by a car. And so this happened in the summer. She had to do lots of rehab. She had months of recovery time. And now she's back at school for the year, her senior year. And Levi is basically like considers her a loose end because she could know like what he was up to, which she doesn't really. But he takes it into his own hands and he starts to bully her, and then eventually becomes obsessed with her and wants to be with her. So I really loved this. I won't get into all the stuff, but I already talked about it more than I wanted to. But make sure you check out that vlog. Hopefully I'll be putting it up in a week or two. I'm just really behind in stuff right now. I'm sorry. But I really liked it. I really loved Levi and Astrid's relationship. Levi is a lot more like a regular guy, but he can be pretty crazy. He's just not at Aiden's level from the Royal Elite series. So I do think it was really cool. And then I think like they'll end up having twins. I'm trying to remember if it was like Landon and Brandon that end up being their kids. So I am happy that I actually read that book and went back to it. So I ended up giving that 5 stars and 3 chilies, and I had a great time. So next I went on to the book that made me go back to that, and this is Empire of Hate. And this is going to be the romance between Daniel and Nicole. And I'm really glad I went back to the original because you get to see all this weird stuff kind of going on the sidelines with Daniel and Nicole. You could kind of tell Nicole liked him and he had no idea, and he like hated her, but he was like such a good friend to Astrid. So now this is many years later. Daniel is, so that school is set in the UK. Now he's a very successful attorney in the United States. And Nicole has had a rough go of it because stuff happens in Cruel King that is revealed about her mom, and it kind of fucks up her whole life. And stuff went on at that time that was really bad for her, and she kind of just disappeared from all of their lives. So in this, you see her, it's years later, and she's got what you think is a kid, but like it's pretty easy to see that it's her younger brother that she's basically raising on her own. And which I don't want to give reason why she's doing that, but she's raising him on her own. They moved to New York, and she's trying to get this assistant job at this law firm, and it ends up being for Daniel. And he actually sees her when she was getting interviewed and handpicks her and is like, I want her for my assistant. And it's because he wants revenge. He wants to torture her. He wants to be an asshole. So this didn't really work for me. It was a big disappointment because I loved Daniel in Cruel King. He was an amazing guy. He was so supportive of Astrid. He was a really good friend. In this, he was an asshole for pretty much the entire book. He treats Nicole so badly. He's kind of like a man-ho. She hasn't even been sexual since high school, really, because of something that happened. And like even when they're like start to hook up, because she becomes his assistant, he bullies her. He treats her like shit. he like is so cruel to her. And then eventually they kind of get sexual and he starts getting involved in her life. But like he refuses to say he's monogamous and that they're together. There's just a lot of stuff that really pissed me off in this book. And even when he finds out the truth, because you get to have flashbacks of their past and what happened with the drugging and their first sexual experience and all this stuff going on in the past. When you see why he hates her, it's bullshit. When you see the truth of what happened to Nicole, and he finds that out, he's still an asshole in this book. So I was very frustrated. I really liked Nicole, and that's what I was worried about, was that I hated her in Cruel King, but she really had an amazing character arc. And so because of her good character arc and how much I really enjoyed Rina Kent's like growth of her character, I did give this a 3.5 stars. Otherwise, I think it could have been a 2.5 stars, because I was really disappointed in it. But I loved Nicole's journey. Daniel just ruined this book for me. And it was very upsetting because I really liked his character in that first book. So I gave this 3.5 stars and 3 chilies. If you want to see more ranting, I will be going into that in my vlog. Okay, so on to happier things. Next, I read Veronica's Dragon by Ruby Dixon. I'm trying to catch up with her like spin-offs for the Ice Planet Barbarians because I was way behind. I've already talked about it in previous videos that that's what I've been trying to do. So this is actually the second book in the Ice Home series. It is a spin-off, but it's on the same planet, Ice Planet Barbarians, but it's with these different characters. And I loved this one. Like, I think this is one of my favorites I've read of hers in a really long time. Ruby Dixon is one of my favorites. She's like a palate cleanser. She's a feel-good author to me. I love her Ice Planet Barbarian series. I go to it when I want to have a feel-good romance. And I freaking loved this because our hero is a dragon. Like, he's a dragon kind of like shifter. I can't remember what the term for his dragon thing was called. I'm sorry, because I'm doing this way later now filming this, so I apologize. But his name is Ashtar, and he's one of the people that there was a group of this other spaceship of slavers that landed on Ice Planet Barbarians, and they had all these like slaves kind of in these pods, and so they're all woken up on this new planet. And he was actually like a gladiator, so he was like forced to fight to the death, and he's very like alpha and whatever. And then you have Veronica, and she is just feels like she's a plain Jane, nothing great about her. But like immediately Ashtar is zeroed in on her and was like, I want her, like that's my mate, I want her. But the men there are like, no, you have to wait till you get the Kui in you. And, you know, you'll resonate to somebody, and the women need to choose if they want the resonating. And he's very alpha and kind of, you know, on his urges and like animalistic. And he's like, no, like that's my mate. But what ends up happening is they do get their Kui in, and he does they resonate to each other. And so like he's very possessive over her, and like she's like kind of freaked out by it all. But he like wants to take her off and just be with her. Eventually they kind of get to go away together for a little bit. Veronica does discover that she's a healer, so she's able to touch them and like fully like heal people and stuff, but it takes a lot out of her, where she was like passed out for days after one time, and he lost it. He was so possessive and protective over her, so he like literally flies her away, and then they end up kind of just doing their one-on-one time. And I just freaking loved this. It was so cute. Like, she's slowly starting to heal his like wing, because he had like a damaged wing. And I really loved him like being so alpha, but also really like just gone for his woman and loving. And so I love this. It was a 5-star for me. I loved it. So this was 5 stars, 2.5 chilies. I did listen to this on Audible Plus, so it is available there currently if you are interested. Okay, on to a disappointing one. I'm not going to go too long about this one because it was just not great. I read Pretty Little Savage by Lucy Smoke. This is the first book in the Sick Boys series. And funny thing, I thought I'd already read this book, but I wasn't sure. It just had a very familiar looking cover, and it was just similar to another one I've read. So I hadn't read this one yet. But it was on Audible Plus, so I thought, I think the whole series is, so I was like, okay, I'm going to give this one a try. And this is between Dean and Avalon, and this is supposed to be kind of like a bully romance, but I feel like it didn't really know what it wanted to be. Avalon comes from a really like trashy, she's on the wrong side of the tracks, and she gets this special kind of scholarship to go to this like rich school, and like they live on campus and all this stuff, and you're like, why do they want her? It's like she's literally got kicked out of multiple schools, she's constantly fighting, so you know, she's got like a druggy like her mom that like does crazy stuff and puts her daughter in jeopardy. But so she ends up going to the school, and then like Dean and her like immediately don't like each other, and he's like they're bullying her, and I don't know. I could not engage in this because the heroine was so fucking annoying. I am so tired of authors writing the over-the-top badass. Like, I'm such a badass, I'm gonna punch first and ask questions later, and I don't need no man, I'm different, and I'm such a badass. Like, it was shoved down my throat, and I was sick of it. Like, she was so annoying. She was more of the bully than Dean. Dean I actually really liked. And she just came off as so ridiculous and so over the top and petty, and like a girl like said something weird to her or said something to her that she didn't like, so she literally like torched her car, and I'm like, seriously? And she'll just like punch people, and like I don't know, I don't like my heroines like this. You can be a badass and be strong and not have to be so in your face annoying about it. So anyways, I didn't like this. I don't know if I'll continue. I was thinking I would try the next one, but I had such a hard time with this. I might try it and DNF it. I don't know. But I figured I could if it's on Audible Plus. It's up for debate in my head because I don't know if I want to torture myself. Because it did end up on a cliffhanger. The ending was a little overdramatic, a little ridiculous, unbelievable. The plot was all over the place. I just don't think she knew what this book was supposed to be. So I ended up giving this one 2 stars and 2.5 chilies. And it was, yeah, so not too great. Okay, so next I read an arc. I read Love Me by Bianca Borell. And this was the first book in the Corrupt Legacy series. And this was interesting. It kind of felt like almost secret society or like mafia type, but like not mafia. I don't know how to explain this because in this we have Caden and Celine, and they are like children of this 5 families. These families are like the powerful families in this town, and they've basically got their hands in everything, and they kind of control a lot of stuff. So it did feel very secret society kind of with that element. And Caden and Celine basically were like childhood best friends to lovers when they were teens, and they were like soulmates, like loved each other. But there is this thing that happens. There's like this initiation for these 5 families. When you get to a certain age, when they think you're ready, they do this initiation. And Caden goes through this initiation. He's gone for like 3 days. And she's kind of panicking, wondering where he's at. And then he does show back up, and he's like, you know, been through the ringer. And he was like, whatever they ask of you, you know, choose me. Like, choose me. Just if you trust me, choose me. And she's kind of like, what the heck is going on? So then she gets her initiation, and really it's not to what he had to go through. But her grandmother, who is like the matriarch, sorry, of this 5 families, she's in charge. She has all the power. She basically asks her if she would choose Caden or the family and like the businesses and and so she did what he told her to. And so the grandma basically kicks her out and like sends her off to like a school. And she's like, you're not part of this family because the family is first. And so before she's carted off to go do this, like she sees him and she's like, how could you do this? You know? And he's like, I chose the family. I chose correctly. And so she kind of goes off to this school and ends up finding some people that she didn't expect, which one, I guess I'll kind of give it away, is her father. She was an orphan. She thought her father and mother were dead, and her father's there, and then also this other guy that used to be part of the 5 families, and they want revenge against the 5 families. So she is basically trained for a couple years. She becomes a pretty strong, like, fighter. She's smart. She's trained. And she's been trying to worm her way and get forgiveness from the grandmother to come back into the fold again. So she finally lets her come back. And this is her time that she's going to come back and work from the inside to bring them down. And she's also looking for somebody really important. So she comes back and she's forced to like live in the same like community housing kind of thing because they're all going to the same college with Caden again. And he actually did that to save her. He did all that to get her out of the 5 families, and now she's back. And they're stuck in this like forced proximity thing. He's like going to be engaged to like this other chick because they kind of do these arranged marriages. So, you know, now they're kind of stuck, and it's like she hates him but like loves him, and she has this goal of revenge. So that's kind of what's going on here. It's, you know, not super angsty, I don't feel like, because they're like in love. It's just them getting over those hoops to find each other again. And then what are they going to do about these 5 families? And it's kind of like a found family thing too, because all these kids that were part of this, you know, kind of all want to bring this down. So how are they going to do that? So I really enjoyed it. It didn't blow me away, but I thought it was really good, a good introduction to this series because it's going to continue on with the other children of this 5 families. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars and 3 chilies. Okay, so then I went on to Empire of Lust by Rina Kent, and this is the 4th and final book in the Empire series. And the last one was a huge disappointment, and this one was so amazing. And I was so thankful for it because it is exactly what I needed from Rina Kent. This is a romance between Kingsley and Aspen. And this whole series is set like around this law firm, these attorneys. Kingsley like is the head with his like partner of this law firm, and Aspen is like a part of that. She's a pretty badass, strong, intelligent, worked her ass off from like nothing to get where she is today. She's a badass. I loved her. Her backstory is really sad and tragic. In previous book, the first book in this series, he has like a 20-year-old daughter, and she ends up getting married to his best friend, who is the partner, while he was like in a coma because they were trying to protect his assets, but then falling in love, of course. But in that you find out that like he had raised his daughter on his own. She was kind of abandoned with him. And you find out that her real mother is actually Aspen, but Aspen was told that she was given like a stillborn baby back then, and she thought her baby had died. So this is so traumatizing for Aspen and for her daughter. And like Aspen's just trying so hard to be a part of her daughter's life, which is really hard because the daughter's pretty angry, even though this isn't Aspen's fault. But we get to, so it was interesting because we're going to go back. We get some flashbacks, but not too many, because I hate when they do too many flashbacks. There was the perfect amount of flashbacks to give us an introduction to what happened, you know, because they had had a one-night stand when they were young. I think he was like 17 and she might have been like 14, 15. And they had like a one-night stand, you know, it was like a Halloween thing. So they were wearing you know, like they didn't fully know each other's identity. And then she ended up having a baby. But there's all this mystery of like, how did they find out who he was? Cause she could never find him, all this kind of stuff. So now it's the current time, and she's trying to be part of her daughter's life. He doesn't really want her to. They have this contentious relationship. They butt heads. But the thing is Kingsley is insanely attracted to Aspen, and he can't control it. They have this insane chemistry, and so they get into kind of a sexual relationship, and it's a secret relationship kind of going on, and they can't fight their attraction for each other. The other thing going on in this is Aspen's father was actually in the mafia, kind of like a hitman, and she had set him up like to finally get caught when she was a teen, and he went to prison, and now he may be getting out and he's after her. So that's another suspenseful element to this. But I absolutely loved this book. I loved these characters. I loved how like they realized they were it for each other, and how possessive and dominant he was. And like Aspen is a badass, strong, independent woman, but like she's very submissive when it comes to Kingsley. And I just loved it. I even love at one point she puts a ban on sex between them because she wants to make sure that what they have going on between them is like more. She doesn't just want to be it to be about sex. So I really loved that. So, and I loved watching her relationship build with her daughter and everything. So I really, really enjoyed this one. So I ended up giving this one 5 stars and then 4 chilies because it is spicy. So I think this is the last book. Yeah, so the last book I read was Brazen and the Beast by Sarah MacLean, and this is the second book in the Bare Knuckle Bastard series. I listened to this on Anyplay. It was a really great audiobook, and I absolutely loved this. This is between Wit and Hattie. Wit is also known as the Beast, and he is this like gruff, scary badass, but happens to be like one of the most beautiful men she'd ever seen kind of guy. But he is like so ooey gooey on the inside when it comes to Hattie. And Hattie is a spinster. She's turning 29, and she has decided that it's going to be the year of Hattie, and she is going to kind of go lose her virginity and live her best life. She is on her way to go to a brothel with like her best friend, who's like on it, not doing it with her, but like joining her on this escapade. And when they get in her carriage, there's a man passed out, bound up in there. And so it was a very interesting meet cute between them. And she kind of like pushes him out of the carriage, and he like perfectly rolls, gets out fine. And he's very intrigued by her. So he ends up following her, and he finds out that she's going to like try and lose her virginity at this brothel. And so he kind of offers to help her. And it just starts this ongoing thing between them, because like he also wants to know who bound him up, because her brother was responsible for that, and he was doing some shady things against the Bare Knuckle Bastards. I think her father owned like a shipping company and everything, and so she really wanted to run it. So she is like the perfect example of Brazen, just like the title. She is strong, she is intelligent, she wants to run her dad's business. And so when things start to happen where he's gonna try and own the business, she's gonna fight him for it. But like honestly, I loved this. This was a lot spicier than the previous book, which I also loved in the series. And one of my favorite parts is he had all these throwing knives that he used, and she had them with her from like the carriage and everything. And so she literally shows up to like his hood, like at the dangerous area, and she had the knife strapped around her, like under her boobs, and she kind of takes off her, coat or whatever, or cloak or whatever, and she like shows him that they were like, are on her, and it was just super hot. He dug it. This guy is gone for her. He wants her so bad. So this was really spicy. There's even like her tying him up when they're like on one of her dad's ships or something, which was really hot. I really liked it. I'm very intrigued by Ewan because he's kind of considered the bad guy of the series, but I think it might be one of those reformed villain type of things, because there's a lot that goes into the Bare Knuckle Bastards and their history and how like their father, they were like all bastards, and he was like kind of pitted them against each other to be who would be, you know, his heir. And I think Grace was actually his like full heir, but he wanted a son. It's just weird. It's complicated. But Ewan basically betrayed them to be I think it's the Earl. I can't remember the title he had, but so I'm really excited to read that next. So, anyways, I loved this. I gave this 5 stars. And then I think I gave it 3.5 chilies because it was pretty spicy for a historical romance. All right. So those are the books that I read this week. Sorry this is so late. Thank you so much if you watched this video. Leave me a like, comment down below, and I will see you guys on the next one.